Hey everyone. Today I'm going to be updating my DCEU ranking for what might be the last time. Now the new movie is still relatively new, so I'll try to avoid spoilers for that one, but here's just a general spoiler alert for everything else. Starting off, number 14 is Suicide Squad. I have stopped watching this movie because it just gets a little bit worse every time I see it. I only watch it if I'm doing a full marathon. Jai Courtney is easily the best part of this movie, largely because he's allowed to use his native accent. Captain Boomerang is the only squad member who doesn't have an underdeveloped backstory. He's just an alcoholic douchebag, and Courtney plays that to perfection.
Mind games.
What's that?
All this bombing the net crap. That ain't real, mate. See, they're trying to trap us with our own minds, right? But you look around, we're free, Brad.
How do you know this?
Just trust me, I know, right? It's a con. Now I'm gone, because I got a life to live. Question is, are you coming? Yeah, smart.
Margot Robbie is also delightful as Harley Quinn. Viola Davis and Jay Hernandez are both good. And you know, as bad as the writing for her character is, Cara Delevingne is at least decent. Some of the comedy does legitimately work. Not a lot, but there are a few good bits. Arguably the best part of the movie is this shot of June Moon turning into Enchantress.
Enchantress.
That shit is awesome. I like Will Smith and he gives a good performance, but I just don't quite buy him as a bad guy. An alcoholic superhero maybe, but not a villain. The action scenes in this movie are a mixed bag. They're well shot, but poorly edited. The editing in this movie is just bad overall, and the pacing is atrocious. I shit you not, this movie has 2 first acts. There's so much shit that makes no sense here. This is a universe where Superman and Wonder Woman exist. This is a movie where Batman and the Flash have cameos, and yet when Enchantress has the power to destroy the world, they send in the Suicide Squad. Squad is who you send after someone like the Joker, not a world-ending General Zod-level threat. The villains suck, and most of the protagonists have backstories that are compressed and forcibly crammed in, and they all just feel generic and poorly thought out. Except for El Diablo. El Diablo's stuff was pretty interesting. Scores 2.5 out of 5. Number 13 is Wonder Woman 1984. This movie is shamelessly bonkers, infectiously joyful, and painfully relevant in this day and age. It's also a mess. Gal Gadot is delightful, Chris Pine is great as usual, pacing is good, the action is good, and the musical score is also good. Where this movie improves on the first movie is the third act. The third act actually feels like a natural continuation of the story instead of an arbitrary CGI fight with the villain. On the other hand, this movie suffers from a double case of broken Aesop, meaning it contradicts a moral or message it's trying to convey. Twice. Maxwell Lord seems to be an indictment of 80s consumerism and capitalism as a whole, but the rest of the movie goes out of its way to glorify 80s fashion trends, ritzy apartments and office spaces, fancy cars, shopping malls, etc., i.e. representations of those very things. Also, for all Diana's talk about how she's given up so much for the world and wants only one thing, Steve, in return, she has an enormous condo, tastefully decorated with a gorgeous view overlooking the Potomac, i.e. exactly the sort of space someone like Lord might covet. Diana may not covet more the way Lord does, but she still indulges to a hefty degree. The moral of never take shortcuts that Diana learns from Antiope rings kind of hollow once you remember that Diana is a princess and a demigod who was able to enter the toughest athletic competition in Themyscira when she was just a child and almost outcompeted her older, more seasoned opponents thanks to her royal status and supernatural abilities. My score is 3 out of 5. Number 12 is Aquaman and the Fallen Kingdom. This movie manages to recreate some of the magic of the first movie, but it ultimately misses the bar. The acting is all solid. Even Amber Heard is good in this movie. She was not very good in the first movie. She is better here. I hate her as a person, but I will give her credit because her acting has improved. I will give her that one thing. The action is a lot of fun, but ultimately it feels like a step down. I love that we get time with Arthur and Orm. I love their stuff, but on the other hand, I don't like how much of an idiot they've made Arthur. Like, yes, he's always been a bit of an idiot, but here they took it too far. They made him too stupid. There's some good humor there. Like Arthur convincing Orm that cockroaches are a delicacy, but then Orm actually likes it, and Arthur is just upset that the joke was ruined. And then I also like the brick joke of how that comes back at the end. I don't care what anyone says. That last bit was just actually funny. And I actually like that all the underwater stuff is portrayed with CG, or at least partially with CG, if not entirely. It adds to the feeling that this is a whole other world. I like that Black Manta is back as the main villain, but having the Black Trident manipulate him kind of takes away some of his agency. It still kind of works, just not as well as it could have. My score is 3 out of 5. Number 11 is Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. As always, going off the Ultimate Edition, not the theatrical cut, because theatrical cut is hot garbage. I know not everyone likes the dark, serious tone that Zack Snyder's DC movies have, but at least the tone is consistent. Looking at you, Justice League. Looking at you, Suicide Squad. Casting is pretty on point, Batfleck is badass, Gal Gadot's delightful, and Henry Cavill is awesome. Jeremy Irons, Amy Adams, Lawrence Fishburne, Holly Hunter are all good. The action is the usual level of good I've come to expect from Zack Snyder. Say what you will about the man, he's great at creating kick-ass action scenes. At least when he has an actual DP working with him. The warehouse fight is legitimately one of the best fight scenes in any superhero movie. Musical score is great, the main characters and the villain all have distinct themes, and the music leading up to and during the warehouse fight is just outstanding. I also like the movie's Batmobile. It's not my favorite, but it's unique while still looking and feeling like a Bat vehicle. Lex Luthor and Doomsday were meh, and I mean, yeah, it is a little long. There's no denying that, but I don't know. It's fine. My score is 3.5 out of 5. Number 10 is Black Adam. There are fun kid characters and there are annoying kid characters. This movie's kid character is somewhere in between, which is honestly almost impressive, because most kid characters are just firmly in one category and the other. This one is like straddling the line. So, well done, I guess? This movie's no masterpiece, but it's a hell of a fun popcorn flick. The Rock proves that he is one of the better choices for this role. I don't know if he's the best choice, but he plays it well. With that being said, it's Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate who steals the show. Most of the VFX are solid, the action is pretty awesome, and the music is very well done. The humor mostly works, and I love the running bit with Adam trying to figure out his catchphrase. That was pretty good. The Justice Society are all fun characters with depth and at least some development. Noah Centineo is probably the weakest link in terms of acting, but that's not saying much. He's still very funny and natural. The problem is that the way he's written, he just kind of feels like a combination of Ant-Man and Deadpool. Mostly Ant-Man, but there's a little Deadpool mixed in. Hawkman gets the most development, and Aldous Hodges' performance is pretty great.
You think yourself a hero, but you would let these criminals go free, knowing that many more will suffer at their hands unless we end them now.
Heroes don't kill people.
Well, I do. Here we go.
Despite this, my personal favorite is Quintessa Swindell as Cyclone. She's funny and quirky and also a total badass, and the visuals used to bring her powers to life are beautiful.
Copy that.
We're on it.
Heads up!
My biggest problem with this movie is that although it does a good job of borrowing elements from various other superhero films and blending them together into something new, it kind of forgets to forge its own identity in the process. Like, it really just feels like a whole bunch of other superhero movies Frankenstein's together. My score is 3.5 out of 5. Number 9 is Shazam! Fury of the Gods. This one is a big step down from the first movie, but it's not awful. The problem is that it feels more generic than the first movie. Like, the whole scene on the bridge just kind of happens. There's not really a character reason for most of what happens in that scene to happen. It just happens. And it's inconsistent, because, like, there are other parts of the movie where the character stuff works very well, and then there are also other parts where the character stuff just doesn't really work. Which is a shame, because the first movie was nothing but character stuff. This is still a very fun movie, with a little bit of horror mixed in. The running bit with Darla and her unicorns is just delightful. I know it doesn't really make sense the way it ends up, but just go with it, it's adorable. I don't know, it's disappointing, because, like, I love the character stuff we got, and I've seen some of the deleted scenes, and, like, why wouldn't you add more of that back in? You can afford to make this movie a little bit longer. I do like that we get the 3 different shades of villainy here. You have the one who is like the token good teammate. You have the one who is just evil. And then you have the one who is like right in the middle. All 3 of them have their clearly defined roles, and they all get at least a little development.
Stop! This is from the champions. Dear daughters of Atlas, violence is not the answer. Oh, good first sentence. Thanks, Darla. We'd like to make a trade. We'll give up our powers if you give us Freddy. Add unharmed. Otherwise, they're gonna monk his paw you. Smart, Eugene. Steve, add unharmed. Then, like yours true, no, sincerely, best, maybe just signed the champions. Should we proofread it? Nah, Steve doesn't make mistakes, just writes what you say. Great, I feel good about this. Me too.
The action is mostly good. The bridge sequence is well shot and well edited, but like I said, there's like, just from a character standpoint, it doesn't really work. But like, it's all well shot and well edited, so that's not the problem. The humor surrounding Shazam being a teenager in a grown man's body isn't quite as good this time around. It's still good, but it's less consistent. Like, some of it feels forced now. In the first movie, it never felt forced, but here, it feels forced, I'd say like 30% of the time, give or take. My score is 3.5 out of 5. Number 8 is The Flash. This movie is a mess, but at least it's a fun mess. I'm not going to go into any of the controversies surrounding Ezra Miller, because I don't know what conclusions have been drawn, like, legally. So I'm just not even going to address it. And just say that Ezra Miller's performance in this movie is really fucking good. Were they the best choice for this role? Probably not, but they weren't a bad choice by any means. Yeah, there's the whole controversy surrounding the use of CG to recreate dead characters. I get it, and also, holy shit, that CG is bad. However, I appreciate what it's supposed to represent, because it comes down to the fact that Christopher Reeves is dead, so they needed to use CG to recreate him. The CG was crap, but they needed CG to recreate him, and so they made everything else CG in order to have it match the aesthetic. I just wish the CG had been better, but I appreciate what they were trying to do. Okay, so here's a fun fact. Back when they were still planning to make Tim Burton's Superman movie with Nick Cage, there was a studio mandate that the third act had to involve a fight with a giant spider. Don't know why, don't care. Point is, that was a thing. But like, I don't think that was ever in any script. Or like, I don't think that was common knowledge. So the fact that someone remembered that detail and put it in this movie, I love it. I didn't even know that until I was looking it up to talk about this movie the last time I was ranking it. I don't know, there's so much messy shit going on, but like, ultimately, I love how it makes me feel. Like, for all of the mess in this movie, the emotional climax between Barry and his mother is just, it still works, it still hits, it still gives me the feels, so, well done.
What's the play? Batman, what do we do? What now?
Now, we try not to die.
My score is 3.5 out of 5. Alright, moving on to the top half. Number 7 is Man of Steel. You can say what you want about Zack Snyder, but he did something that at least one other, arguably better director failed to do. He successfully launched the DCEU. Yeah, 2 years earlier, Green Lantern was supposed to launch the DCEU, and that was directed by Martin Campbell, the guy who gave us GoldenEye and Casino Royale. But no, it took Zack Snyder to make it happen. I don't care what anyone else says. Henry Cavill is great as Superman. Well, for one, we get a Superman who's actually buff, but also his performance is just so friggin' great. I know some people complain because, like, Superman has always valued life and avoids killing whenever possible, but this portrayal doesn't go against that. We meet this Superman before he reaches that point in his life, and when he does, he gets there the hard way. This is a Superman who learns to value life because he was forced to take a life to save others. It's such a powerful moment. You can see the anguish and regret in his face as soon as he does it, and you can hear it when he screams.
If you love these people so much, you can mourn for them. Don't do this! Stop! Stop!
rest of the cast is solid too. Amy Adams, Russell Crowe, Lawrence Fishburne, Kevin Costner, Diane Lane, they're all good if not great. Michael Shannon as General Zod is still probably the best DCEU villain to date. Probably. There's some competition. And Anja Trow somehow manages to outshine him as Feora Ul. The action in this movie is well shot, well edited. It's visceral and exciting, and the flying has never felt more real. Superman's first flight in this movie is nothing short of epic. Snyder also showed some restraint by not using any slow-mo. Instead, he uses snap zooms, which is something that he previously used in 300, only there he did it in combination with slow-mo. Here, it's just that, where instead of cutting to a close-up, the camera zooms in and focuses on what's important and then zooms back out. The score is 4 out of 5. Number 6 is Justice League. This is a tale of epic proportions told with style and substance. It's twice as long as the theatrical cut, but it's worth every minute. Justice League was one of the longest 2-hour movies I've ever seen. Zack Snyder's Justice League is the shortest 4-hour movie I've ever seen. Now, granted, I haven't seen very many 4-hour movies, but there have been a couple. Most, if not all, of the positive aspects of Joss Whedon's cut are present here, making WB's decision to bring him in definitively pointless. Here's hoping they've learned their lesson. Anyway, the lengthy runtime gives Snyder more than enough time to flesh out the new characters and some of the returning ones, with giving them new shade. Steppenwolf's appearance is finally as awesome as his voice. The Joss Whedon version of Steppenwolf looks too human. This one looks like a friggin' monster. And he actually feels like a real character with an actual personality and clearly established goals and motives. In Justice League, he just felt like a mama's boy. A bad CG mama's boy. God, that movie sucks. Anyway, CGI and the soundtrack are such a big step up, and Junkie XL's musical score is great.
For Darkseid.
Not impressed.
I will say there is definitely some padding here. There's definitely a few things you could cut out. You could probably trim it down to about 3.5 hours. But ultimately, none of it feels egregious. So, the score is 4 out of 5. Number 5 is Aquaman. This movie is the cinematic equivalent of good overacting. It's completely over the top, it knows it, and it doesn't care. That's why it's so damn entertaining. It's colorful, a little cheesy, never takes itself too seriously. Speaking of colorful, this movie forgoes the washed-out color palettes of Man of Steel and BVS, and, like, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I guess, and Fan Four Stick. And instead, it's bright and colorful. The acting is mostly solid. Jason Momoa is clearly having a blast. Patrick Wilson is a great villain, on par with Michael Shannon as Zod. Willem Dafoe, Nicole Kidman, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, and Tamura Morrison are all good, and Amber Heard is at least passable. Like I said, she was better in the sequel. Probably the best thing about this movie is the action. All of the action is very well done, but there are 2 different action scenes where the cinematography goes from very good to masterful. And also, the final battle is truly epic. humor mostly works, though there are one or two jokes that don't really land. I like the running gag of Aquaman getting interrupted by explosions. And there's also a cliche dodge I like. Usually when a hero or villain has one or more dead parents and they're doing bad shit, someone would ask them, what would your dead parent think? In this movie, not only does that not happen with Black Manta, but Black Manta's father actively encouraged him to kill Aquaman and get revenge. So even if someone did ask him, he could be like, I'm doing what he wanted me to do. It was literally his last request before he died. That scores 4 out of 5. Number 4 is Wonder Woman. Gal Gadot has never been a great actor, but she shines as Wonder Woman. This is probably her best role. And that's all I'm going to say about her. Chris Pine is great, and Lucy Davis is hilarious. I probably sound like a broken record here, but the action in this movie is pretty great. They use slow motion, but it's different enough from Zack Snyder's slow-mo to feel not like Zack Snyder stuff. The cinematography is pretty great, and the choreography kicks ass.
Taking all the fire, let's go! 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 Down! Strike there! Strike there!
I really like the humor in this movie. It feels natural instead of feeling like it was added to a complete script. Musical score is one of the best in the DCEU. It draws some of its stuff from BVS, but overall it stands on its own. The villains are fine. They're not good. They're not bad. They're just fine. My one big problem with this movie is the final battle. I don't hate it, but it's just another fight between the hero and some CGI villain. I don't hate it, but it's obviously studio interference. Scores 4.5 out of 5. Number 3 is Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey. This movie is everything Suicide Squad should have been. It's rated R, the tone is consistent, and most importantly, it has relatable stakes. It's my favorite thing about this movie. The conflict isn't some deity trying to conquer, destroy, or colonize the world. It's about Harley Quinn dumping the Joker, losing her social immunity in the process, and having to deal with the fallout and all the people who want her dead. Which is a lot. Because she's Harley Quinn. The cast is solid. Margot Robbie is delightful as Harley Quinn. Journey Smollett-Bell and Rosie Perez are both very good. Ella J. Basco is basically Cassandra Cain in name only, but she's still pretty good considering this is her debut role. And Mary Elizabeth Winstead absolutely steals the show. As for the villains, Ewan McGregor is wonderfully flamboyant and sinister. Chris Messina is very good as Victor Zsasz, and those two just have a lot of chemistry and they're clearly having a blast. The action is well shot and the editing uses long enough shots so you can tell what's going on, largely thanks to the R rating. There is the fight in the clown house where the choreography suffers a bit, but aside from that, the choreography is on point and very creative. The humor is consistently funny. Harley and her egg sandwich is still a better love story than Twilight, and they poke fun at the fact that Huntress is your typical generic anti-hero out for revenge. But then it also gets deconstructed because she's socially awkward. She doesn't have quips and one-liners ready to go on demand. She has to practice them in the mirror repeatedly, and even then, she doesn't always nail it.
When she was ready, and by ready I mean a badass motherfucking killing machine, she moves back to Gotham, starts working on that kill list. She has the murder stuff down, but the rest...
Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am?
Still a work in progress.
Do you know who I am?
There's also a great running gag where she's trying to make a name for herself, but people keep calling her the crossbow killer instead, and it's just very frustrating to her. I love it.
She has the murder stuff down, but the rest...
Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am?
Still a work in progress.
Do you know who I am?
The crossbow killer.
They call me.
The crossbow killer.
They call me.
The crossbow killer?
They call me Huntress.
She calls herself Huntress. Fucking fabulous, if you ask me.
The score is 4.5 out of 5. Number 2 is Shazam! I still love this movie. The acting is great. Zachary Levi perfectly embodies a boy in a man's body, and Mark Strong makes for a pretty great villain. The other foster kids are all good, especially Grace Fulton, and Cooper Andrews and Marta Millen have very good chemistry, and they genuinely seem like real, caring foster parents.
Yes, exactly why your math department is so uniquely suited for me. I can't even with Eugene right now. Sorry. Mary, hi. College interview.
I'm Billy.
What am I most excited about? Oh, what a great question. I was hoping you'd ask.
Mention you're a foster kid. Colleges eat that up.
What I'm most excited about is the campus experience. As a foster child, I'm a big believer in finding family and friends in the most unlikely of places.
Also, Jimon Hansu is a badass as always. The humor is just consistently funny. Eugene not realizing it's nighttime because he's been playing video games. Shazam not being able to hear Savannah's evil monologue because they're too far away. Darla just being adorable. I love it. There's also just a great little character thing I like. So when they're all getting ready, going out to go find Billy, Darla is slower than the rest of them, and like she's still getting ready when they come back. So she's not very fast physically. So later, when they all get their superpowers, her thing is super speed. I love that so much. Musical score isn't the best in the franchise, but it is pretty damn good. The action is well shot, well edited, and well choreographed, and it gets really fun when they all become superheroes at the end.
Guys? What's happening?
I can fly!
I love this movie gives us a positive portrayal of the foster system for once, because most movies don't do that. My score is 5 out of 5. Finally, number 1 is The Suicide Squad. James Gunn is a mad genius and a national treasure who must be protected at all costs. This movie is his masterpiece. Not his only masterpiece, but it is the masterpiece of his career so far. The acting is all great. Danielle Malcor is the standout as Ratcatcher 2 because she's really the heart of the film. Like, Bloodsport is the main character, but she is the heart. Idris Elba, Margot Robbie, Joel Kinnaman, John Cena, David S. Malchian, Viola Davis, and Sylvester Stallone are all great. The rest of the cast is at least good. The action, music, comedy are all great. It's well shot, it's well edited, well directed.
Non-lethal. You lose.
Exploding compression bullets.
No one likes to show off.
Unless what they're showing off is dope as fuck.
Fuck. That's true.
The characters have depth and arcs. You genuinely care about at least some of them. And most importantly, for all the wacky hijinks in this movie, the emotional moments still work, and they still hit. They still have impact. And what more can you ask? My score is 5 out of 5. Hey everyone, what's your ranking? Let me know down in the comments. Like and subscribe and all that. If you don't like the video, tell me why, try to be constructive, then subscribe anyway. When I upload a new video, you'll get a notification for that, watch that, and then tell me why that one sucks. I have a Patreon. If you're interested, it's 2 tiers. The first tier is just access to the exclusive content. The second tier is you can commission tribute videos. So if that interests you, link in the description. That's all for now. Stay safe in these crazy times.